Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wrap Up Raptors Republic post game show after every Toronto Raptors game. I'm here with Aiden Moss and Kyle Brickman, and we are fresh off Brechman, of course. How could I? And we're fresh off another close Raptors loss, two in a row now against another good team. The Raptors lost 98-102 to the Dallas Mavericks with Luka Doncic putting up 41, 14, and 7. Casual line for him.
No problem.
Yeah. And it was obviously a really close game throughout the entire time. It never got away from either team. And it was really just kind of another case, I think, similar to the Heat game of Luka, a superstar, versus, a Raptors team that is pretty what's the word, where everyone gets their touches but there's no superstar. And democratic, sure. And in clutch time, the Raptors have had some issues beating superstars with that style, and that's what happened tonight. Luka Doncic hits a huge wide open three. Now, it was about 34 feet out. It was not close, but still, it's Luka Doncic. We all know he can hit those. So let's start there with the Luka shot, which was pretty clearly some sort of miscommunication between Scotty Barnes and Chris Boucher. I have seen people speculate that Nurse was very mad at Scotty Barnes for not really attempting after, Lucas shook him out of his boots and Barnes did not really attempt to actually contest the shot. So Aiden, I'll start with you. We'll try to get that play up here, and what do you think went wrong there?
I'm no lip reader, but I think I saw Nick Nurse say, and I quote, "Fuck is wrong with him," unquote.
You are a lip reader.
I think that's generous of you to say that there's a miscommunication with Boucher. It looks like, and I think Scotty's done this before, it looks like Scotty got crossed and knew he wasn't going to get there on the step back and just kind of gave up. Because even if there was, I don't know if there's a miscommunication and Boucher is coming, then Scotty's not dropping, or he's just not doing anything, right? He's either pressing up and doubling, or he's Xing out or switching off or crashing the boards or something. So
sorry,
it looks
that's
like
the wrong shot. I'll find it.
I have it in the private chat.
That was the wrong shot.
Was it?
Yeah, I'll find it.
I have it here too. But so yeah, I just think Scotty kind of effed up, which is whatever. It's just one play. Like, I don't really care about the single plays, but like Scotty was guarding Luka a lot tonight. Sometimes because he was switching off onto him, and sometimes I think early on, like, he started on Luka. And
he did.
This has kind of been the thing with Nurse is like, well, I don't think Scotty's healthy. Like, there's something laterally wrong with him. He's never been that quick laterally, but he seems really unquick laterally. Like 2 nights ago, Jimmy went right by him, no problem. So if that's the case, why is he guarding the superstar? And B, I don't think he's the best choice anyway. Like, his best attribute right now is being a team defender or being closer to the hoop, not being in isolation at the top of the key. And that's no shot at Scotty. He's just not. That's not his skill set yet. He's not quick enough or smart enough, I guess. I don't know why it's not OG. I don't know why it's not. Even Pascal would be, I think, a better lateral option against Luka. So I blame Nurse. I don't blame Scotty for the fuck up here. Like, that's just kind of, I think schematically it was the wrong choice, and we saw it throughout the night. He had moments, but most of the time he wasn't able to handle Doncic.
Yeah, Kyle, talk about the clutch time, offense or defense. I mean, do you agree with Aiden about the fact that maybe Nurse is being a little too diplomatic with who he puts on guys like Doncic?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I agree that OG is probably the best option, but then it presents another series of cascading problems, like who guards Porzingis, who guards Hardaway, etc. Like, I think, I'll trust Nurse in that sense. To me, it did look like Scotty pulled up, like, not necessarily because of Boucher, but rather because it's like, I got burnt and I'm not slipping to contest a shot and being on Bleacher Report, which he was like, he's on anyway, but like, could have been much worse. Could have been like, an extra 10,000 retweets there. And I got to say, like, it's not necessarily excusable, but they were not looking at Scotty down the stretch. He made like deep post position on Luka a couple times. And basketball's changed a lot over the years, but like probably from like the first 5 basketball games ever played, like you go at the good offensive player when he's playing defense. You make him defend, you make him tired. And Luka basically did nothing on the defensive end for like the entire last, 3-4 minutes, with the exception of one Scotty post up, which worked. So I'm sure, like, I'm not excusing his behavior, but I can kind of see where he's coming from. He's probably pretty pissed off that he's not getting looks when he should probably be getting looks against Luka.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that they could have definitely got Luka involved more in the screen and roll, and like made him come and defend the pick and roll as a defender. But I think there's a couple of things. Like, one is that, okay, so yeah, Barnes started the game on Doncic, and then Achua got it, which was a very interesting call. He didn't do bad, but the Raptors were switching 1 through 5 all game. But at the end of the game, Luka liked the Barnes matchup, and so he was just calling for the Barnes screen, and then they were switching it. And so that's kind of like more of a schematic thing than him, like, I don't think they wanted Barnes defending Luka at the end of the game, but
No, of course.
that was just the problem with switching every screen, is that that's going to happen if Luka wants it. And yeah, I shouldn't say that it was a miscommunication in hindsight. Like, Boucher tried to kind of stunt really late, but if anything, I more so mean like they were doubling Luka all game, and I thought maybe that was a situation where they were going to double him. So not like it was Boucher's fault that it was an open shot, but I do think like they were doubling Doncic all game.
Scotty was anticipating him coming.
Yeah,
Maybe,
I'm with
but
that. And you can see Nurse, like, I don't know if there's a full highlight there, but you can see Nurse like sort of encouraging like a trap or like a pretty hard double as soon as he gets the ball, and the pressure's released. At which point, like, they can't really bring like a super hard double, but it was obvious that there was supposed to be a double coming late. And I think Scotty's anticipating that, but at the same time, it does look like he intentionally does not contest the shot.
yeah. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on that, but I do want to say, like, both of the 2 big buckets at the end of the game, one was a corner 3 from, I forget, and one was that Luka one that we just watched. They both came off of offensive rebounds, right? And so I thought this game was a really good encapsulation of the problems we've been talking about all season with the bench, because Achua goes out there and he has maybe the worst offensive game of his season, and we've talked about Achua's offense a lot, so that's obviously saying something, but it was not pretty. But we also know that Achua is a really good rebounder, and having him out there at the end of the games, if he's not going to do anything else, he's going to rebound for you, right? So I did think that was like, having so few options off the bench really showed today, because Boucher was obviously closing the game at the 5, and he had a good game. He definitely deserved to, but I'm just saying, the Mavs won the game because they got 2 offensive rebounds and capitalized on both of them after the Raptors got really good stops. So that's an issue for this team, for sure. And I just thought that all the bench problems really came up today.
Absolutely. I mean, Achua has games where like like tonight, I mean, I know 5 for 10, but he missed probably 2 or 3 really easy, like gimmies around the hoop. He has games where he brings like basically nothing. And that's really harsh criticism. I get that, but it's like the Raptors are full of guys like Speed's a shooter who can't shoot. Achua's an energy guy who's like seems kind of lazy at times and doesn't bring it. It's like there's just this whole bench unit. It's completely screwed. So I don't know what the solution is, but until the bench can get something going, we're going to get these late game performances where Scotty, who's like, let me check, he played 28 minutes tonight. It's like has been injured, basically playing 30 plus minutes a night. He's exhausted. Starters are exhausted, and they can't get anything going because of it.
Yeah, I'm writing a piece about Achua for tomorrow, so
Uh-oh.
watched this whole game with like that in mind, right? Where I'm trying to get some film on him, and like it was mind-boggling how many offensive possessions he screwed up, and because it's not just that he's out missing gimmies, which those are the obvious ones to see, but he is like today was obvious. I think a lot of the season people, like smart people, have been pointing this out, but in less obvious cases, today was like the most obvious where he would literally run into his teammates. Or there was that one where Pascal threw it out of bounds, right? Because
Yeah.
Achua was supposed to be the corner 3-point shooter, and he cut into the lane at a time where he just should not have cut into because there was so many guys already in the lane, and Pascal was pissed. And there was another one where he came to screen for Pascal. Pascal rejected it, and he just kind of kept wobbling into Pascal's way. And it was like, so it wasn't just that he missed gimmies, it was also that he like really did not know where to go on offense.
Yeah, and that's I mean, that's going to happen with a 22-year-old, but like you're saying, we usually have somebody to sub him out with, and it's not a 20-year-old who just dislocated his finger. It's like somebody else who can give you those minutes. I'm still not. I'm still befuddled by why we're not getting Watanabe minutes. Like Super MXNN said here, like this team is a fairly big team. Doncic is like a perfect guy for you to cover. Like he can be aggressive on him. He can foul out if he has to be, but he's like going to be quick. He's going to be physical with them. Like, why can't we throw 15 minutes at Doncic with that? Like these are the kinds of things that like we can criticize guys like Scotty and Precious all we want, but ultimately they're both rookies and they're both going to make mistakes, and they've both played very well in the grand scheme of things, and this is going to happen when you literally play with six players, and so I just think like this is on Nurse. I used the Phoenix Suns reference a long time ago, but like D'Antoni refused to play past 7 guys every year. And then we get to the playoff, they'd get to the playoffs, and like Nash would gas, or somebody would get suspended, or someone would foul out, and there'd be nobody. Like Eric Piakowski would fucking come out there and do nothing. So it's like there's a responsibility on management to like play these guys even when they're struggling, and accentuate what they do bring to the table and ignore what they don't bring to the table, so that they can grow as a player, and so that you can buy a couple of minutes for the guys who are playing 40 plus minutes every night.
Yeah, like on that time, the pushback I would have with that is that those like Phoenix teams had way higher expectations, right? Like for the Raptors, making the playoffs would be the goal this season. So I'm not worried about
Well, that's
whether or
even
not they
more
have
arguing.
gas
That's even more arguing my case, though, which would be like, if we're not going anywhere,
development.
why wouldn't you hone those other guys?
Yeah. No, you're right in that sense, but I also think like if we did get to the playoffs, I'm not worried about guys having energy in the playoffs. Necessarily, but you're right. From a developmental standpoint, I think Nick is very stubborn, and I think we're seeing that. And yeah, that was definitely a case tonight. Aiden, do you have any closing thoughts before you go? Want to leave us with anything to
Yeah,
ponder?
guys, I have to go because I have important things to attend to. But I will say that I thought OG had a great game, and it was nice to see him be decisive quickly and early. Like there wasn't a lot of this like at the top of the key or on the perimeter kind of like dosey doing with the ball, because frankly he can't do that at an elite enough level to get by a guy. Instead, they were drawing some plays up for him, but he was getting to the key quickly, and then he was passing at the right moments too. Like he was choosing when to dish and when to go to the rim, and so it was encouraging to see. He only had 2 assists, but it felt like he had more. But it was encouraging to see OG just like be a better decision maker and a better scorer tonight than he has been in the last couple of games, or in a different way rather than passively.
Yeah. Before we go past onto OG and some of the Raptors, Kyle, I want to ask you if you agree with what Aiden said about just playing this few players. Like, are you mad at Nick in games like this, or are you okay with it for the short time, for the immediate future with these injuries and with who they have?
No, I'm not okay with it at all. Like, even if it's not we're a team that's gearing up for a big playoff push, so we need to save people. Like, it's not sustainable to play guys this much. Like, period. If you're a lottery team, like, this is just not a good way to run a franchise. It's like run your guys into the ground in mid January. I was just looking at the season leaders in minutes per game, and it's like there are 3 Raptors in the top 10. And the rest of the guys are like, your James Hardens, your LeBron James, your Damian Lillard. It's like guys who are like, we need him on the floor at all times, or our offense is screwed and our defense is screwed and our whole team's ruined. Like those type of guys. They're Fred, Pascal, and OG are all top 10, and Scotty's at 12. So 4 starters in the top 12, like a third of the top 12 are all Raptors. That's no one else is doing this. Clearly, this can't be right.
To be clear, I'm not as worried about the volume of minutes played, even though I think that is a concern. I'm just saying that it's kind of this double-edged sword. Like the longer you don't let them play, the less effective, or the less chance they have of being effective in the long run. And I think there are some guys, mostly Utah, like not that many, that do have skill sets that are missing at times on the court, possibly because somebody's at 80% like fatigue or whatever, and possibly just because Utah brings a unique set of tools. And so I'm just saying we need to coax those, or Nurse needs to coax those out a little bit. And I'm going to leave you guys with that. Have a good night.
All right, have a good night, man. Well, I think this tweet is perfect because it's exactly what we're talking about. Like, a lot of Raptors fans are frustrated with the rotations right now, and yet you also will have to admit that given who they have available, they're playing really good basketball, and they're keeping it close in games with teams that, like, the Mavs were 9-1, and they're in coming into this game. They're playing really well. Miami, Milwaukee, all these teams are playing really well. And I hear what you guys are saying. But I think it's twofold for me. On one hand, I'm not that mad at it. Because I think there's just such a drop off after Utah. So the Utah thing is weird. Obviously I would like Utah to be out there, and I've said that, but I don't want Flynn or Benton or Svi in the game. I just don't. So it's hard for me to really complain given all that, given what I'm saying, because Utah and Justin are nice, and I would like them to get more minutes, obviously, in an ideal world. But I'm not too mad at it for the short term because, and this flows into the second point, every time I watch this team, I'm just thinking every game a little bit more. I'm just like, they have to be buyers. There's no way they can play like this for the second half of the season. There's no way they can look at this core and say that they're not good enough to be buyers and to surround them with some more pieces, some more shooting. It's kind of a crazy thought considering how they entered the season, but I guess Nick is really not a developmental coach in a lot of ways, he always has the mindset we got to win. And so that's what you guys are saying about not playing guys, but that is also good in other ways because it squeaks out these wins in games you should have no real business winning. Even that Milwaukee game was an example of that.
Yeah, and I think we ought to say Kem Birch and Gary Trent are coming back as well. So that brings the Raptors to a very, very, very solid, what is that? 8-man rotation, depending on how you feel about Precious / Chris. 8.5 guys that you can trust. That's not bad. That's on the lower end for NBA franchises, especially franchises that are in the Raptors position. But it's not the end of the world. So that should be considered. They've basically never been healthy, and ideally soon they will be.
Yeah, but I've seen that idea too, and just I'm so jaded this season. I'm just but when those guys get back, someone else is gonna go down. I'd be so surprised if they actually get a sustained run with all 8 or 9 of their guys. That just doesn't feel like the modern NBA right now. Very few teams have been able to have their whole rotation with COVID and all these injuries because of how they're playing, with shorter off seasons recently. So it's hard to bank on that stuff, and that's why you really need depth in this league. And we said it coming into the season, and the front office, they have to take some blame. I think like we've fairly criticized Nick Nurse in this game, but you also have to admit that the front office deserves criticism too, right? Like they have not
Absolutely.
put together a enough of a team.
And like whatever, it's hard to speculate about the Lowry deal because it's impossible to know what this provisions of those negotiations were. But was Duncan Robinson on an option over Dragic? Because I know that was being discussed, and I know he's not having a great year right now, but at least he's like playing. At least, and we would have had to pay Duncan Robinson. And had we not done the Lowry deal at all, there would have been 20 million in cap space to play around with. It could have been like instead of Precious, it could have been Rashawn Holmes, like you like to talk about, for 12 million plus, like two MLE level guys coming off the bench. Like this team could have been deeper had they not pursued Goran Dragic, who isn't playing.
Right, but I think what we're like really getting to is the fact that they are ahead of schedule in so many ways that we're already pushing them to like we want them to be a winning team this year when that was not supposed to be the case. And the Precious deal signified that like they're going younger, like more than anything. I'm sure they could have got other deals that were more win now moves, and the Precious move was a pretty big thing. Like this is a very raw big man that is going to take like a couple years at least to really develop. And so we're definitely seeing that. It's a credit to me, to the core, to the Fred, OG, Pascals, that we're even saying like I wish they had more pieces instead of Precious, because they've been that good this year that we could definitely see them like contending with a few more pieces.
So I guess that's a good like little segue here. What do you think the Raptors will do at the deadline? Because you seem to think they'll be buyers, but to what extent? Like, does buyers mean like hop in a Ben Simmons trade and get like some big piece from Sacramento, or does buyers mean like make a call about Miles Turner, or does it mean something as simple as like making a tiny move to duck under the tax and shuffling a couple bench players around?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say. Like, I have no sources, but I think I came into the season thinking it would be a tiny move to get under the tax and sign a 15th player kind of thing with Dragic. But I think I've changed to now thinking, like I just have a suspicion that they will make a move, and I don't know if it's going to be as big as Ben Simmons, but yeah, like maybe a Miles Turner, Jakob Pertl, Eric Gordon, someone in that realm, a good bench player, or in or in the center's case, a good starting center, right? I think those are definitely on the table for the Raptors. Like, I think it was pretty interesting to hear them talk about when they had the fourth pick and they had Scotty, and they talked about how they learned a lot about the value of their players and the value of other players around the league, because obviously teams were offering stuff for that pick. So I just remember reading between the lines with that stuff about how much more information they got from having that pick. And so between Boucher, between Flynn, who I think they're out on, but a team might be willing to take a second draft on, between Dragic's contract helping create like a lot more bigger deals, they're definitely in a position, and between having all their picks, they're in a position where if they want to go do something, they can do it. It's up to them. But yeah, that's where I lean right now, towards like a Miles Turner size, or even Eric Gordon size guy. How about you?
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends how much you trust this core, because like those guys, just from a salary perspective, it doesn't make sense contract wise unless it's Goran Dragic, who's basically a negative asset or at best a neutral asset. So the Raptors, the only thing they can really attach is like Malachi Flynn, who, I mean, he's not playing. Like we were talking the other night, if they're not cracking this bench, I don't know what bench they're cracking around the league. And I guess Precious Achua, I'm trying to think of like what other young assets they have that are on really small contracts. There are so few
Boucher's
guys.
an asset. He's not
Boucher is an
young,
asset,
but he's
but
an
not
asset.
to teams that are blowing it up. He's an asset to a
Right,
contending
but
team.
then there's three-way deals, and there's also bird rights on Boucher helps teams in a sign and trade in the summer. So even if he's not going to help them right away, it's still valuable to have him on contract, I think.
Okay, but I'm with you there. But even then, like if we're talking about a Miles Turner, that means a couple years of picks, likely. Like maybe not a couple years of first round picks, definitely not a couple years of unprotected first round picks, but we're talking like several big assets in exchange for Miles Turner, which the Raptors basically don't have except for in draft capital. So if you believe in the score and you're willing to like take a big risk by giving like I don't know an unprotected pick this year or even an unprotected pick this year and a lottery protected pick next year for Sabonis or Turner, then I think maybe
Yeah.
that's what you do. Maybe you pull the trigger. I'm not necessarily against that. I think Miles Turner is a great player, but I'm just skeptical because the assets don't really make sense.
Yeah, I would hedge right there and say like the most I would do is a one pick and those whoever between those guys, whether it's Boucher or Malachi or even Utah. Like I think a pick and one of those guys or two of those guys could get you a real impact player. And if the trade deadline plays out to where it's such a seller's market to where that's not the case, then yeah, I'm out. Like I'm not willing to leverage the future for one player. But I also think just one player could help this team immensely, whether it's a starting center or some floor spacer who can handle the ball a little bit.
The other thing, like when we're evaluating what the position of the front office was, like you mentioned, the Precious thing was like a very much a move for the future, but I don't think the Raptors knew what they had in Scotty at
Yeah.
that time. And now
Yeah.
we're what 2-3 months into a season. He's basically proven to be like he's him or whatever. Like he is an asset. He is the number
It's
one
him.
asset on the team.
Yeah.
He is like the guy that they're going to build around, etc. So instead of being in a position where maybe when they traded for Achua, they figured like we're going to be dipping into the lottery several years. We're going to be sort of hanging around in this pool of like the 7 to 13th lottery team and hoping we jump up, et cetera, et cetera. They're at the point now where they might not need to dip into the lottery anymore at all to acquire talent. They might feel like they have the talent right now, and it's about winning this instant and or within the next 2-3 years while Scotty's on a rookie contract. So just because they went after Precious doesn't necessarily mean like this they're not down to make a huge win now move like an Eric Gordon style win now move.
Yeah, that's true. But as we saw tonight, Precious isn't. I mean, sorry, Scotty is good. He's
Mm.
very ahead of schedule, but he's not ready,
Yeah.
in the sense of like he's still like you said, he needs a couple more years. And I mean, I'm biased. That's the thing. I'm high on Achua. Like I think a couple years down the line, I think he could be a guy you really regret trading for the short term. Uh, but that's just me. That's kind of just where I stand on Precious. And I know most people are lower on him. Um, anyways, let's get into the tax man. Do we have film?
We had one piece of film that was Aiden's. I mean, we could hop into it real quick.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to roll whatever film we have? I mean, we both
Sure,
watched
let's
the
do
game.
film quick.
Yes, I have that right here. There is one piece of film that was
Okay.
asked for by
One piece of film for
someone who is not here.
Okay, this is gonna be great.
for our loyal fans. Oh.
This is like
Oh.
sort of a okay.
Well, I remember yelling at my TV when this happened. You guys need to get out of Siakam's way. All game this was happening. Like Boucher, Precious, they're just getting in his way.
Which is it's ironic because it's like Boucher. The only reason this play happens is because Boucher is getting in everyone's way, including the
Yeah.
Mavericks' way, like the way of the passing lanes. But you're right, like when you get guys the instruction is on defense like go fly around, put your arms everywhere, like it's hard to maybe get out of that mode and break and transition very quickly. Like when you're flying around, it's you don't exactly stop on a dime. I don't know what Chris is doing there.
But you're right,
He's
like
playing
Boucher,
really well, but that is rough. That is rough.
Boucher played really good defense today though. Like I don't know, I'd like to see his deflections just from this one game because it was really really good from him. But yeah, like obviously this kind of screwed that up. And honestly, like the game came down to moments like this where the people will remember the Mavs hitting a 3 with like a wide open corner 3 because they pressured Luka with like 6 seconds left in the quarter. And it's like the Mavs executed at the end of quarters and at the end of shot clocks, and the Raptors didn't. And that was like a big factor in this game.
And I mean, we haven't really gotten into it, but the Raptors shot 25% from 3 tonight. Like it's hard to win. It's a testament to the like how hard they were getting to the rim and how well they were playing defense. The fact that they're even in this game at all.
Yeah.
I mean, when's the last time you saw a team win a game shooting 25% from 3? Like that's atrocious. So I mean, and whatever it was, like less than 40% from the field, 38.5% from the field. Like the fact that they were even in this game at all means that they were doing something right on defense, and they were. It was just a couple possessions down the stretch, just couldn't put it together.
Yeah, they like especially at the end of the game when they started doubling Luka and putting way more pressure on him. I thought they were gonna win because the Mavs had so few answers other than Luka this game. But obviously, like it really was those offensive rebounds because they got stops and then gave it up, and then yeah, that's all the film we have for you guys today, though. However, let's do our tax man of the night, and I think for me it was the same as Aiden's, which was OG Anunoby. I mean, Fred went 4 of 20 from the field. So
Look at his from 3. Can we bring up the box score? I don't mean to shock you guys, but this is like 2 consecutive.
I'll just read
nights.
it. Okay. Well, yeah,
this is
3 for
2
15.
consecutive nights. Terrible 3-point shooting from Fred. Atrocious.
The funny thing is, like, he's such a no yes guy where like he pulled up from like the logo basically with like 30 seconds remaining and hit that big 3, and it was like, no, because you haven't been shooting the ball well at all tonight, and that's a bad shot, as Paul George would say. But you know, he does also have that big shot gene in him for sure. But yeah, it was not a good night. Like I think Fred's hit a little bit of an on-ball wall recently where all the extra bodies and attention he's seeing, he's having a hard time navigating that right now, and they've put him off ball a lot more because of that. But that's kind of par for the course for a guy who's going to take this much of a usage bump on the ball.
Yeah. I have my tax man would also be OG, and I'll let
Yeah.
you
Okay,
run it. But
yeah, let's
I
play
have
the
something
film.
to talk about OG wise afterwards.
Well, we were talking in the Miami game about OG
Mhm.
struggling to take advantage of mismatches in the post. He did a way better job of that tonight. And I mean, here's an example. They went at Tim Hardaway Jr. pretty aggressively tonight. The Raptors did. But yeah, like he was really good. Like just putting the ball on the floor, hitting threes. As I said earlier, Luka did not want any part of him as the defender, and that's why he kept calling for the Scotty screen. He wanted Scotty and he did not want OG. And obviously, like, we know that about OG, but yeah, it was just a great, I think, shot selection game from OG more than anything.
Yeah, and like OG will always be able to do this against the Tim Hardaways and the Reggie Bullocks of the world. Like if you have like, you know, if your small forward or whatever, your second biggest wing is like some 6'5" guy who, you know, doesn't eat enough and it doesn't hit the gym like OG does. Like this is just going to be the night he has. Like he's bigger, he's stronger, and he's quicker than a lot of these guys. The problem we've always had with OG is like his isolation scoring against really good wing stoppers, which looks really bad. But it, you know, in situations like this where this is a pretty barfy shot, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He gets there on the rebound. He's bigger than everyone. This is the type of night he's going to have. So kudos to him. I'm happy for him.
Yeah. So Can-Am Tax, visit canamtax.com for all your taxing needs. Tax season's coming up for 2021. Don't try to go to TurboTax and do it for free because you'll regret it and you won't get money back. Go to canamtax.com and they'll help you actually get the money you deserve from the government, because who are we kidding? The government, we don't, whatever. Never mind. But yeah, the canamtax.com and all your taxing needs will be met there. All right. Yeah, let's take a couple questions, I guess,
Yeah, I
and
had
then
this.
we'll get out of here.
I actually made note of this earlier. So over this stretch, I don't remember how many games it was, maybe 9 since December 31st for the Mavs. Opponents are shooting 29% from three, which I saw. I thought it was like some sort of graphical error. That seems ridiculously low for a stretch that far. And a lot of that just has to be luck, right? Because they can't, if they've figured out a defense that limits threes that aggressively, the league's finished. Like they're not losing a game again. It's unprecedented. Um, so a lot of it has to be random luck, but I think they were guarding the perimeter pretty aggressively. And I think, Oren, you tweeted earlier in the game, like the Raptors were just getting anything they wanted at the rim, and that's because they were super aggressive on the perimeter. So I think it's a little bit luck. It's a little bit their scheme, especially their scheme as of late. But I don't know. It's hard to say. 29% for a season, that's ridiculous. So there's maybe something's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I think there's luck in there, but they do have the best defense in the league over the past like 10 games or so. So they definitely are playing really good defense, but also obviously the Raptors have 2 shooters in the rotation right now. So that's a problem. Is there one more question we want to take, or is that it?
I had a question for you guys.
Yep.
I was talking about this with Aiden. What did you guys think of the Fred shot? On the last possession of the game, it ended up being an offensive rebound. But, like, do you think that that's Amy Audibert was like he's earned that shot? But I kind of don't feel that way about anyone. Like, what did you guys think of that decision?
I see where you're coming from. Like, no one on this team has earned that shot. Like, Kevin Durant earns that shot after years of shooting stuff, like making shots like that. I get it, but I mean, they weren't getting anything else, and I don't think they got anything else off the offensive rebound either. So at a certain point, it's like, go ahead.
Yeah, I think like he just hit the big 3 right before that, right? So it's really hard to criticize him for taking another 3 in that case. And then he did give the ball up to Chris Boucher after that, which honestly to me is probably a worse shot than Fred VanVleet taking like a contested shot. So I wasn't mad about it, to be honest. I would like them to run some more like actual offense down the stretch for sure, but we've gotten pretty used to knowing that they don't really do that. So um, I do think he's earned that shot, I guess, is what I'm saying. Yeah, I think we talked about that one. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap up if that's cool with you.
Absolutely. So
All
thanks.
right.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks. We're getting back on YouTube eventually.
Yeah.
Zarar's talking to Adam Silver one-on-one. He has a Zoom with Adam Silver. We're getting back on YouTube.
Yeah, we should have that sorted out within the next few days. But yeah, this was the wrap up. Thanks for watching. The Dallas Mavericks beat the Toronto Raptors 102-98. Toronto will be in Washington on Friday night to play a Wizards team that is okay and healthy. And I think it'll be a pretty competitive game, pretty even teams, I would say, generally speaking. And that's it. Thanks so much. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we will be back Friday night. Goodbye.